Good morning, Jim Hudson, Operations Section Chief with CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 5 with your update on the south zone of the monument incident. Up and above Junction City in the Helena area in the North Fork of the Trinity River, we continue to coordinate with the North Zone and share resources in that area, as well as coordinate contingency line that has been established and improve that working towards the east above Weaverville. As we work our way around the map in the Junction City area down to Evans Bar, the line has really held and looks very solid. We continue to build depth and mop up. We have identified that area as black line or containment line on the map. Crews are in a tactical patrol mode in there. You'll see them mobile out in the road areas to the west of Dutch Creek, checking for any hot spots and mitigating any hazards such as hazard trees or hot spots around structures. Moving down south of Evans Bar, just northwest of Maxwell Creek, we were able to identify this line as black line in that area. That was a spot fire from a week ago that's completely wrapped. Crews will also be in that area building depth, mopping up more interior of the fire to reduce any heat. As we move to the south, just above Carr Creek Road, crews continue to mop up and improve line in that area. And there will also be working crews off Garden Gulch Lane and to working their way around to this island of unburned fuel in there. No activity in that area, so we're getting really good depth on our mop up. We're not ready to call it black line yet, but very little fire activity other than some interior flare-ups in that area. North Hayfork the line continues to hold very well. Crews are tactically patrolling and reducing any heat along the edge in that area as well. Our priority continues to be Western Hayfork, specifically Northwestern Hayfork, Cedar Gulch area, Bean Gulch Road area. That's where we've had our line challenge the most over the last few operational periods. We'll be surging resources into that area. You'll see a lot of firefighter activity in that area. And improving those lines mop up. We're also building contingency line out to Hyam Palm Road in coordination with the North Zone, and our plan is to connect those as they work out of the north and we work out of the south. Contingency line continues, construction continues, moving down towards Tooley Creek Road area, and that'll give us a buffer of and a place to work off in future if needed. However, the fire continues to hold. We've seen very, very minimal growth over the last 2 days. Fire's holding very well. The weather has been in our favor, and the smoke layered over the area has not allowed to get the fire to get up and run. So we're taking advantage of those conditions and continuing to hold the lines as we move through today, and we'll continue to improve all our lines and mop up and really focus on cooling those areas off that are along the fire's edge. Thank you.
Good morning, Karen Scholl, North Zone Operations with the Alaska Incident Management Team. So we'll start over on the western side of our zone in the Underwood Mountain area. Crews continue to mop up and gain depth in their mop up and securing features further in the fire, just to reduce the amount of potential for spotting and whatnot. Things are looking really good over here and continue to hold. As we move up into the northwest part of the fire, crews yesterday finished up their prep work around Daly, and they'll move up to Denny today. So there'll be some scouting, dozer lines, and hand crews, personnel putting in structure protection equipment and supplies as we get them. So they'll be moving north to Denny. Work continues on our primary line, the indirect primary, as it comes from the wilderness boundary back down to the above Trinity Village. So those improvements include mastication, snagging, and just widening the lines where able. We've got additional lines, dozer lines that have been put in off Hoboken Ridge and different spur ridges. These are all previously established lines that we're opening up, and we've got some hand line to put in down to Bell Flat. And then, again, improving the lines that we already have in with mastication and felling snags. Around Trinity Village, Hawkins Bar, the work there is pretty much complete. and we're just tightening up and ensuring that the folks in that area know where all the right pieces and parts are, such as the snap tanks for the water and where the hose lays are that go to the residences, and what the plan is there if we get fire established across the new river. We still have the repellers in the confluence, and they'll be there through today, and we'll likely extract them tomorrow. Today is kind of the critical fire day. We're not at a red flag warning, but we are looking at extremely dry fuels and a very dry air mass. And so there's still potential for spots to come across, and any spot that does or any ember that would come across could be potentially develop into a spot fire and something that we can't control. So that's why those folks are still in there. Right tool in the right place. As we move across towards the east, Big French continues to be, very active, and we're seeing growth in that area. That is not the highest concern right now, and nor do we have the resources or any ability to do anything in there. It's more of just so you guys know what's going on up there. So this continues to march towards the north. There are fire scars to the north where this fire may end up, and that would be kind of a slowing feature. As we continue east towards the North Fork of the Trinity, this is a big concern. This is something we've had a lot of focus on, as you guys know. And so a couple of different things I'm going to explain. One is trigger points, and one is management action points. So on the ground, our resources, our firefighters on the ground have established trigger points that basically when the fire gets to a certain point, they're to stop and evaluate, making sure and validate what actions they're doing and whether it requires something different. So right now, the trigger point in the North Fork is if fire gets established on the east side of the North Fork, that would initiate some firing of the ridge, of Backbone Ridge. And it's not a firing action coming all the way from the north and bringing it all the way down, the whole ridge. It would just be firing in order to keep to knock the punch out of the main fires that wants to come up to the ridge. So that's something we're keeping an eye on. The way we're doing that is using infrared technology with the 3 different platforms that we currently have at our disposal. Right now, the fire still remains on the west side of the North Fork, but with today's winds anticipated out of the southwest, if the winds push down and surface and are able to push the fire downhill and spot across, then that would be kind of the initiation point. It doesn't mean they're actually going to start it firing today if that happens, but it's certainly something that they'll be really getting their plan together, getting resources in place to be able to do that. And of course, a lot of this depends on air support and whether we have clear skies in order to enact some of those plans. As we move on the East Fork Road up to Hobo Gulch and the dozer line that's going in up there, just wanted to make sure everyone understands that the dozer line we're putting up in the wilderness is not the dozer line that has been established down in other parts of the fire. Some places, the dozer line requirement is 4, 5, 6 blades wide, so a very wide line. Other places, it only requires 1 to 2 blades, so about 10 feet, maybe 12 feet, and it's not a big, huge scrape. So not all dozer lines are equal, and the one that we're putting up in the wilderness is the right tool. We're using a smaller dozer. We've got a lot of resource advisors who are up there ensuring that we're not doing a ton of damage. We've got felling teams that are knocking over the snags, so they're dropping the snags so that the dozer doesn't have to do that. And then we're also just taking a real light hand, as light as we can, in order to hold that ridge, because that's the biggest, the greatest possibility of success is holding that ridge. So that's what's happening there. We're not intending to, again, start from the top and fire the whole ridge to the south. We're just going to burn where we need to, when we need to, in order to increase our chances of holding the fire either on the ridge or then backing down and burning off from the East Fork Road and then blackening that. Talked a little bit about MAPs, or management action points. It's similar to a trigger point, but at the next level up. So trigger points are used for the ground folks. Management action points are used for the strategy. And so our next management action point is fire getting established on the east side of the East Fork. And if that happens, and established means we can't get around it, we don't have any confidence that we'll be able to stop the progression, that would then warrant a conversation at that higher level with us in the sheriff's office to determine when to put Canyon Creek into an order. So we're not there, and don't anticipate that to be for another couple of days at the very earliest. But we do have a management action point out there east of the North Fork for establishment of fire across there that we don't have confidence we can do anything about. So part of those MAPs and the trigger points are not that they're hard and fast, that if fire gets there, we're gonna do this. It's an evaluation point, and we take into consideration the time of day. If it's late in the evening and we anticipate the fire activity to decrease when they reach our trigger points, then we may wait until the next day, try and get additional resources in to try and pick it up. So it's not hard and fast, but it does cause us to reevaluate what we're doing and if it still makes sense, or do we need to go to our next plan. And again, remember the PACE model, we have backup plans, and so those are all the things that we're considering. All right, moving on, we continue to work with CAL FIRE with additional dozer lines and mastication over in defense of Weaverville. Their stuff, as Jim said, is looking real good all the way down to Douglas City, so our aid there is a little bit less, and they're actually sending resources to us to help out, and that's that whole putting surging resources to the area that needs it the most. So we're working well with CAL FIRE on that. We continue to patrol the 299 corridor, and things are holding nicely. There are and will continue to be flare-ups in certain areas, especially on the hillsides that are visible. So we'll continue to respond to those. And then down over on our southwest part of the fire, and where we border with CAL FIRE, we continue to hold the Pattison Ridge. Crews are still mopping up in here. This is a good anchor point for us. We continue to hold the ridge, and the check line we put in 5 days ago continues to hold. We are moving one of our crews, our one crew from this area, down towards our other division where it abuts CAL FIRE as they're coming from the east. We continue to improve the primary lines, which again are down off Halfway Ridge and down across Judd Ridge. So we continue to improve that. We've got masticators working from the handoff point to the west along the High and Palm Road, just to improve the chance of maybe holding High and Palm and not allowing fire to get across. So we need to improve our chances there. So masticators and fallers are working to improve the road. The plan, probably as Jim talked about, is for CAL FIRE to blacken off the Sims Gap and across and tie it back into the fire where they've got it right now. This is a really good plan to hold this corner that would help keep fire from wanting to flank around and come into Hayfork. For us, if they can do a good job of holding this on the corner there, that just buys us time to continue improvements along our primary and alternate lines. We don't have a plan to push fire any further west for us to take fire west unless we need to, and that would be a couple of days out after we tighten up our preparations. The thing that would change that would be environmental factors such as wind shifts and wind direction, making the fire do something we're not anticipating or we don't want to happen. So with the southwest winds anticipated today, this should be a successful operation. The main fire will continue to back, but it won't be turning and running at us. If the fire turns and runs at us, that would be when we would actually need to start taking fire further to the west. So we don't anticipate that, and over the next several days, As you've heard in the weather, we anticipate the wind to remain out of the west-southwest and be advantageous for us just to continue prepping, hold the corner, and only fire when we're ready. When we fire to the west, down south, we also need to fire up along the Pattison Ridge. That's for firefighter safety, because we don't want to put fire below the firefighters that can run up with the topography towards firefighters. And then also we don't want fire to cross Pattison Ridge. So this will be an extremely coordinated, highly coordinated operation between our folks up on the ridge as well as the folks coming down here. So the plans are in place, they're big, they're robust, but there's really good communication between our entities as well as with CAL FIRE, and so we're anticipating fairly good success probability of this operation today and then continuing later through the week. I think that's about it for the update for the North Zone. Have a great day.